Welcome to Muffin Talk. As we are now preparing for Advent, which culminates in Christmas, we are also nurtured by very special readings during the next 4 Sunday Masses. Brother Kieran, our church here starts on the 1st of Advent.
So year A is Matthew, year B is Mark, year C is Luke. And of course in the liturgy of the Sundays, the Gospel is followed through, and then a reading from the Hebrew Scriptures or from Paul accompanies the Gospel. And the focus of the homilist is to draw out the connections. I feel a great sympathy for those who do the readings when they prepare the reading and it just remains uncommented on. It just drops into the silence. And my real concern is, I think, the greatest neglect at the level of homilies is a complete unawareness of the Hebrew Scriptures.
And yet we hear them every Sunday. Here in New Zealand, we hear 2 readings and the Psalms.
Yes, and of course it's an escape to just go straight to the Gospel, as unfortunately happens so very, very often.
And despite having these different liturgical years, A, B, and C,
yes,
do the readings for Advent have a kind of common thread, irrespectively of the current year?
They do, actually. There's a very common thread. And actually, I find it fascinating that the last word of the New Testament from the book of Revelation is Maranatha, come, Lord Jesus. And that's really what Advent is about, the coming of the Lord. And you can tell that coming is a thematic type of thing, because while we're looking towards the first coming of the Lord at Christmas, the very first Sunday focuses on the second coming at the end of time. I actually sort of like to think of 3 comings. Yes.
And what is the third coming?
The middle one. Because we can focus on the past with the birth of Jesus. We can focus on the future with all that interesting language about the end times, using apocalyptic, about the sun losing its light and the moon turning to blood and the waters, there'll be storms and earthquakes and goodness knows what. All the language of apocalyptic. But I think a really important coming is, how does the Lord come to us today? In the present time, the pattern is followed pretty regularly, as well as it can be, with the first focus in the first week being on that second coming of Jesus at the end, with the apocalyptic signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and the challenge to be watchful. Now, that is very much like we've got those signs given at in the Gospel of the first week, and then look to the fig tree for the signs, and then be prepared. But then in the second week we get John the Baptist coming, and it opens up with, in the 15th year of the Emperor Tiberius, when Pontius Pilate was the governor, and then it moves from this world perspective, which is really telling us that the person of Jesus, this is a world-shattering event that is going to be described. And then the focus narrows down to the second part, when Herod was ruler. Then going down further to that, from the royal level, it goes down to Annas and Caiaphas being the high priests. So we get this narrowing down of the focus in this second Sunday. And then we meet the lines, prepare the way of the Lord. Now, sometimes we will have the prophet Isaiah coming in, and the last week is preparing us for the birth of Jesus, and there we meet Mary. So that's our structure for the Sundays of this Advent. And then, of course, we've got the Old Testament reading.
Yeah.
And that actually is an interesting pattern, because we have Jeremiah, and Jeremiah starts out with, opening Advent, the first words we hear, the time is coming. And then in the second week, we have Malachi, I am sending before you my messenger. Incidentally, Malachi actually means my messenger. And then in the third week, we get to Zephaniah. This is Gaudete Sunday, celebration, right? Sing aloud, O daughter of Zion. And then in the final week, we get that beautiful little piece from the prophet Micah, that you, Bethlehem, are not the least among the clans of Judah, for out of you is to come one who is to rule my people. They're stirring readings to go with stirring gospels. Right? And then the pattern often is something from the patriarchs, something from the prophets, something from John the Baptist, something from Mary or about Mary, and then finally Christmas Day comes with the person of Christ.
Yeah.
Preparation. Beautiful preparation.
Thank you for that explanation. That's really good.
But that heroic peace is calling. In the bonds of love we meet. For the